Welcome to the Wisdom Lifestyle Money Show. I'm your host, Scott Dillingham. The goal of the show is to show you how you can grow personally, financially, have a larger net worth, and leverage your largest asset to help you develop the person you want to be. I take you through all the steps I did from being nothing to being told that I was nobody and I was never going to accomplish anything, from getting kicked out of high school to owning a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio in my own company with more than 20 employees. You'll meet our partners, you'll meet our friends, and you'll quickly discover how you can improve your life. So listen in and enjoy the show. Welcome to the Wisdom Lifestyle Money Show. I'm your host, Scott Dillingham. Today I've got Nick Messina with us from Team Goran Remax. And then I've got Cass with us from Cass Design Studios. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, no worries. So today we wanted to have a different perspective on real estate renovations, specifically focusing on real estate investors. A lot of investors buy properties that need renovations, or they have a property and they want to do renovations to them. And the thing is, a lot of challenges with investors is they lack the time. I find they're really busy and they don't really want to get their hands on with the renovations. But then a lot of times we find that they make some big mistakes, right? That, loses them some equity and potentially lowers their resale value. So this is why we wanted to have two experts on from different angles, but both can touch on the renovations. So here we are. So welcome, guys.
Thank you.
So let's talk about some of the worst things that an investor can do when they're renovating their home. I'll start with you, Nick. What do you find, or what have you seen that was really ugly that lowered someone's value? Like, what did you see that an investor should avoid at all costs?
I find a lot of the time people tend to navigate towards what they think might be the best situation for their home.
Okay.
Things like painting to their liking, updating to an extent, again, to their liking. And when it becomes more unique, it's harder to sell. I think it's better to go modern, more generic to open up to the public and get as much traffic as possible. So I would say anything that really is a unique situation and anything custom to the client is probably not a great idea.
Okay. No, I like that. And what do you think, Cass?
Honestly, Nick nailed it because it's what I see is they're putting their emotion into it. It's what they like and what they want and what they're going to gravitate towards, which is fine if you were keeping the home. But if you're renovating to sell and you're renovating to flip or invest or anything like that, you want to keep it geared towards the masses.
Yeah.
And you know me at this point, Scott. I do like the unique things. I like to go that route, but those are the times where you're going to want to follow the trends.
Yep.
Right? And appeal to those wider audiences ultimately.
Yep. Now, so then that brings up another question, right? Because a lot of people, I've heard that as well, right? You want to be neutral, right? And then so you see all these beige homes, right? That's so ugly in itself, right? Just the beige. Builder beige. Yeah, it's so ugly. So what, I'd like to hear from both of you, but what have you guys seen or what do you recommend your clients do to keep it neutral, but more lively than just beige everywhere?
It might sound a little bit standard, but honestly, I tell my clients a nice fresh coat of white paint goes a long way.
Yeah.
It is a little bit neutral, it is a little bit standard, but it does open up the possibilities for people to come in and it helps them envision what they would want to put and what they can see themselves being in that home and doing with it, right? So
okay.
A nice white fresh coat of paint definitely goes a long way.
Nice. What do you think, Cass?
I mean, I virtually want to say very similar things, and I think it depends what the goal is in the moment, because a lot can be done with staging a home as well.
Yeah.
So, when you keep the renovations and the bones of things as neutral and bright and airy, as people say, then a little bit the better. But a lot can be done with just decorating with plants. So, like I'm sure Nick knows, it's the game of depersonalizing and taking away a lot of things. And so you still don't want it to feel cold. But I like to decorate with plants and staging can go a long way. So
yeah, no, 100%. I mean, you want to definitely keep it, staged, looking well at the same time, like you said, depersonalized so that people can envision their family in the home. But at the same time, you want to keep that balance of it looking good, right?
Yeah,
so, 100%.
Big time.
Yeah.
Thanks. Now, right now in life, everything's so expensive and a lot of people want to cut their costs. So how can we, I know we've only really touched on painting, but how can we have an investor do some work but really cut back on the cost of doing the work. Do you guys have some suggestions your clients or investors have done?
I'll take this one.
all
So I got a couple things in this realm of things. So I just did, what did we call it? How to maximize your profits,
ROI,
your
yes.
ROI for investors. We did it in the Investor Hub that LendCity hosts. We've got a whole online community. And part of when I was doing that event, what was coming up is the actual dollars and cents. So I want to answer this question in two ways, right?
Sure.
There's a way from a material standpoint to, get the cheaper. You can get LVP, luxury vinyl plank, as opposed to hardwood. You'll save like $5 a square foot. That's a hefty amount when you're talking investing. But then there's the other way that I want to take things, and so this is a little bit of a plug though, because I was asked to do another event for short-term rentals, and I'm actually going to have some numbers. So there is an actual mathematical equation on what your current rent is, what your new rent would be, and taking into consideration all of the money that you've spent on the renovation as well. So that's to come. I don't have that answer right now, but yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
like
something
that.
to keep in mind.
Yeah, and I gotta just say about the the vinyl plank, like we did it in the one office over there. I've done it in the basement of my rentals too. And if there's ever water, it's pretty good. Like you got to take it out to dry under it because you don't want mold to grow under.
Right.
But beyond that, like you can just relay it back down. You
Yep.
don't have to throw it out and redo it all. So
The product itself, yeah.
Yeah,
you just
for
need
sure.
extra because if you've cut along, right, you've cut along the wall, let's say, and then when you put it back together, there's going to be spots where you're like, I'm missing style now. You can't get it. So you got to have extra for that too.
Yeah.
But super cool product. So then what would you suggest? Let's turn this to a seller because you can both answer this.
Okay.
But let's say somebody's selling their home and they want to renovate. And I know a lot of times the best advice is don't do anything, like leave that up to the buyer. But let's say it needs it and you absolutely have to do something. What do you guys recommend as some key renovations that someone can do to maximize the value of their home?
So from a real estate standpoint, I would say if we're talking about rooms specifically, I would say kitchen 100%.
Okay.
I think kitchen is one of the major factors that clients look at when they enter a home. On average, you could honestly renovate your kitchen $10,000, $20,000, $30,000,
Yeah.
and you're looking at about a 75 to 100% return on that investment.
Okay.
So kitchen, always, I would say, definitely a good idea to look into. Bathrooms, I mean, I guess it depends on really the condition of the bathroom and how many you have in the home. I would say light fixtures, adding a vanity, making it look nicer. You're sitting at around a 70% return on your investment for the bathrooms. So I think of all the rooms, bathrooms and kitchen are probably your two highlighted ones to renovate. And then obviously, if you can add an extra amount of bedrooms at like a low cost, I would definitely encourage that as well.
I like that.
Nice.
75%. That's a solid number.
Yeah.
That's a solid
These are reported Remax numbers.
we will cite the sources. But you're right. And so what I can add to that is when it comes to the kitchen, you don't have to go ripping it out though.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, 10, 20, 30, sometimes you can get upwards to 60, 70, 80
Yeah.
just touching a kitchen. And so you can repaint those cabinets. You can get them refaced. So if you are selling, there are ways to keep your costs low.
Yeah.
Just to appeal to the masses, like we were saying. When it comes to the bathrooms, my rule of thumb, so I'm curious what you think here, Nick,
Okay.
is if there's at least two, then as long as you have one that's updated, pretty much top to bottom updated, then the other one you can get away with like the quicker fixes.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I mean,
Okay.
as long as you have one really nice one where
Yeah.
the family's like, you know what, we can use this one, and
Yes.
if push comes to shove, we'll go and use the other one, then yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So I'm on the right track.
That's cool. I even spoke to an appraiser one time, and I don't know if this is still the case. This was maybe 2-3 years ago, but he said that if somebody does their backsplash, he'll usually add on $5,000 of value to the home. And I don't know about you guys, but a backsplash doesn't cost $5,000. You know what I mean?
No.
But just the impact that it has on the overall look of the kitchen is so drastic that an appraiser's willing to add $5,000.
Yeah.
Now again, that might have just been this appraisal. It could have been that specific property, but that's what he was suggesting, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Good to know.
Cool. So then, what would you guys say that you would recommend for? Okay, so I want to do renovations. Let's say I've decided I'm going to do my kitchen and bath. What would maybe the first steps be? And Cass, this might be a better question for you, but like a lot of people just dive in, and I think that's where a lot of mistakes happen. So what would you say? How can you help?
The easiest is just having the overall vision. Having the overall vision, having the inspiration, a way to communicate what you're thinking and what you're after to the people who are actually doing the work.
Yeah.
And even if that's you and your significant other, okay, you guys don't think the same, okay? Men and women don't think the same. And so even if it's you guys that are doing the work yourselves, you want to keep as much money in your pocket as possible, just try to be on the same page, and having visuals is important. So Canva is free, guys. That's how I do all my mood boards. Pinterest is endless on the inspiration that you can find on Pinterest. So even just having reference photos is the best. That's definitely your best bet, is having the overall vision.
Yeah.
And then putting together a spreadsheet for the actual numbers, like having an amount that you're willing to invest into the home and the property before you sell it. But then that's where I would bring in Nick and a real estate agent is, okay, hey, I'm thinking of doing these updates. This is what it's valued at right now. What is it valued at after these updates?
Yep.
And that homework before you swing any hammers.
Yep.
The homework.
No, I agree. And from the lender standpoint, right, because that's obviously who I represent, you can build these renovation costs into your mortgage, right? Obviously, if you're selling, that's a different story. But you can build all that in too. And a lot of investors don't realize that. So they end up out of pocket, or it limits their growth because they could be using that money for another purchase. So yeah, build in all the renovations, right? OPM, use other people's money, and then you can grow. But let's talk back to the ugly renovations. What are some of the ugliest renovations you guys have seen since we're here talking?
So like
about
the absolute don'ts, but I want to know more because you're in more people's houses than I probably am. What are some big don'ts?
I mean, definitely don't go with really outlandish colors on the walls. Like I've been through a house where the walls were painted neon green and neon pink every other room. So I would say things like that don't do. Definitely stick with the neutral colors.
Was that the video game house?
Yeah. That was.
Okay.
As far as other ugly renovations, I've seen, I think layout is extremely important.
Yeah.
I've gone through houses and you're thinking like, wow, like this is a beautiful home, beautiful space. But the way that they laid it out to make more rooms and create, extra space is just, it's awful. Like you need to make sure you're allocating the spaces correctly to maximize not only the vision, but what you can do with that space, right?
Yeah.
So putting up walls in spots where there shouldn't be, definitely not a good idea.
Yeah. Makes sense. What did you say, Cass?
So, I mean, how can I answer this? Repeat the question.
Okay, let me ask you a different way, because you literally help clients design the renovations.
Yes.
So let's word it the other way without maybe mentioning a client's name, but what was maybe a renovation that you had suggested something and the client went on their own and did it their way,
okay,
and it worked out really ugly?
So, and I don't want to say that it worked out ugly, only because I was on the project and I wouldn't let that happen.
Okay, fair enough.
But I think the way that you portray what you want, which again comes down to visuals and a vision. I did have this one client. She was an absolute sweetheart. Love her to death. The way she had presented what she wanted wasn't what we ended up with. And what ended up happening is she just needed to see it and then to be like, yes. So what was my point here? You might have to edit this part out.
What part was ugly? What was
but it
ugly?
wasn't ugly. Okay. Let me think of an ugly. I just go back to the lime green bathroom.
Yeah.
So
that's fair.
But it wasn't a project I worked on. Who's one that took it and just destroyed it? Oh, okay, I got a good one. So I always have to come at it from a modern level of things. And I did have this one client, and she was an older woman, and it turned out great, but she wanted everything to be pink and like old lady pink.
Yeah, that's too much.
Right?
Yeah.
But it was their space. So it was their home. And so I really am of the two.
Like a Barbie home.
Well, it wasn't like that. It was like old lady pink. So
Okay.
it was like a blush.
Yeah.
And I did my best, but I think in the end,
Did it smell like perfume everywhere?
Yeah.
Like the old original wartime home pink.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
right, where it's like this baby pink, and I struggled with the overall vision, but at the end of the day, she was happy. So that's the difference between where most of my clients, I am promoting, do it uniquely, do it your own, but I also have that level of, from an investor standpoint and from the seller standpoint, you don't at all want to have any personality on it. Warmth, yes, but no personality. But I will go right back to this lime green bathroom. I have to. So there was this house that was being sold, and the photographer was in there, and they showed me a picture of the basement bathroom, and it had a vessel sink on top with butcher block countertop, and the bathroom was lime green, and then it had like some sort of pattern tile going on in the bathroom. So it was like butcher block, lofty, but then Mexican-ish with the pattern tiles, and then there was like this very old traditional vase in the corner. So mixing the styles or no?
Yep.
That's, I think, where the ugly comes into play. You're
Yeah,
mixing too many styles. You're trying to do too much in one space.
Yeah. I've seen
Simplify.
some ugly houses too. So the two weirdest things for me was there was one house, there was a toilet. I guess you could say it kind of was like the living room maybe, but why would there just be a toilet there? I don't know, but there was, so that was weird. And then another one was all painted black with like red paint to make it look like blood was dripping down.
Oh,
It was weird.
that's creepy.
It was really weird. So I was like, I'm not buying this one. Even though it's paint, it's still the thought of it, right? It's like,
Well, because I
throws
think
you
it
off.
poses the question of what else? What else am I going to find in this home? What else could have been done? That's how I would be thinking
yeah.
about that.
And that's exactly the point of this, right? You don't want to do those renovations because even myself, realizing that it could be just paint, it threw me off so much that I didn't want to buy the home, right? And that's what we're talking about here, is not doing those things that
Yeah.
are just so drastic that, you push people away.
I'll add another example to that, actually.
Let's hear it.
So I actually went through a beautiful house recently. Like, you walk up to the front, it was beautiful. Like, I'm expecting beautiful staged inside, everything. I walk in with my clients, and there's, what do you call that? Like, dead trophy animals, like, everywhere. Like, all over the walls. There's, like, moose, wolves. And I'm looking at my client, they're like, yeah, we're a little bit scared. And I'm thinking, like, yeah, like, for such a beautiful home and to have that displayed, like, you're cutting your traffic in half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have a good amount of people come through there, and they're going to think, like, oh, yeah, this isn't for me. Meanwhile, without all of that, you would be able to really see the potential of that home, right?
Yeah. So if you have weird things, weird colors, like clean it up, right?
Yeah, for
Because
sure.
they could have taken that down and put it in storage or something, right?
And that just comes back to what Cass was saying. Like, we love uniqueness, but when it comes to selling the property, you want people to be able to envision what they're thinking, right?
Yeah.
I do have a quick question for Nick, though, because I've heard this before. So you were talking about a hot pink paint, and I'm talking about lime green. And while to live in it, no, you don't really want that. So there's a couple things here. I hear that when people buy a house, they really won't repaint. So they walk in, they're not gonna. If it's already neutral, more than likely they're not gonna paint for another 3 to 5 years. But then I've heard on the flip side that if a buyer is going to all of these houses, that it's good to stand out and not have everything super neutral. So maybe there is a random basement bathroom that is hot pink or lime green, so that when they've looked at 15 houses in a day, they're thinking, oh, what about that one that had the crazy hot pink bedroom and it stands out? So do you think that that's a good thing or a bad thing?
I mean, like, you're definitely not wrong. I can see the point where it's like out of sight, out of mind, right? So if you have something unique that stands out, you're going to be in mind, and people are going to be constantly thinking about that property, right? At the same time, I think it really boils down to whether you're looking to move in from an investment standpoint to flip the house, or if you're purchasing it to move in with the family.
Okay.
If you're on the family side, I would say you are right. They typically don't paint over it right away. If it's an investment standpoint, typically they do.
Okay.
But I definitely see the point where you stand out a little bit. You are in the mind of, the traffic that comes through. Whether that's a good or bad thing, I guess that really depends on the individual.
Okay.
And what we will be doing after this, You can go to our merch store that we're going to open up right away. But what we're going to do is we're going to have 20 feet tall cases, okay? So it'll go up the wall and onto the ceiling. So if you want to make your house look unique.
Oh my gosh, like a custom vinyl sticker?
Yes.
I am so up for this.
Yes, you can get the custom vinyl sticker on our merch site. So.
And it's better than wallpaper.
And then nobody will forget your house and it will help it to sell. So it's perfect.
There are no guarantees.
Yeah. No warranties, Install at your own risk. But no, that's awesome. So, okay, so I know we're going to wrap it up here just because we like to keep these short so someone can listen to it on their commute to work or whatever. But any other tips or final thoughts to, an investor or maybe even a homeowner who might be listening to this that wants to really get into renovations, or they're local, right? And they want to tap into using you guys. Give your tips and then give how they can get in touch with you.
I would really say and I think I can speak for all of us on this front, it's so important to allocate not only your money, but your time when it comes to fixing up a property. It's super important to consult professionals like myself and Cass when it comes to these kind of things. You don't want to be wasting your time, wasting your money on improvements that are not going to return on the investment and are ultimately not going to bring in the traffic you're looking for. So I think I can't stress that enough. You have amazing people like the two of us. Definitely use the resources at your disposal.
Yep. And just to wrap up your thought here, Nick, so how do people reach out to you if they're looking in Windsor-Essex County and they want a realtor that specializes in knowing the value of a good renovation here?
Yeah, so I'm actually a very proud member of Team Gorin Remax Care. You can reach out to me directly. My number is 226-782-4552, or any of the other amazing agents, at the office, 519-979-9949. And also, we work really closely with Cass, so definitely reach out to her, and I'll pass that over to you.
So you had asked a question, though. What was your last question?
Just if you had final tips and then how people get in touch with you.
So something I had said on the event that we did in the hub anyway was to build your team. So that's one of the big things, having the vision and then building the team who knows what your overall goal is. That's for sure my one biggest tip. And you can find me on Instagram, Cass Design Studio, KASS Design Studio. And yes, you can call me too, 226-881-2194. But you can find me at LendCity, all over, talking to the agents and things like that. The last thing I want to say about building your team is a quick little story about someone who thought they were going to cut out the electrician. And they wired the whole house and did it wrong, right? And we had, got into just the do's and don'ts. And it is, don't think that you can do something for cheaper. That's where building your team, knowing that they've got your end goal in mind, which is, hey, this is a flip, this is a rental, we're selling this. And just having everyone on the same page is super important.
No, that's perfect. And a quick final update before we go. Actually, the merch store sold out of Cass stickers. It already sold. So next we'll be featuring Nick as well. Okay, so that'll be on there. We'll put up the link for that.
They're on pre-sale right now.
Yeah. But thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Thanks for having us.
Cool. We did it. We should have opened a merch store just for fun. If you're serious about real estate investing and you want to take it to the next level with the least amount of time and mistakes, then you're going to want to sign up for our Real Estate Investor Hub. Visit CanadianRealEstateNetwork.com and hit the blue button or banner that says Free Investor Resources. Inside, you'll have access to real estate investing courses, networking opportunities, webinars featuring industry professionals, as well as dedicated chat channels to share and get access to unique properties. I look forward to seeing you there.